Hello and welcome to the Mozy Mobile webcast, our Mozy Pro monthly webcast and webinar on how to use various products and functions of the Mozy Pro backup software. Today's topic is Mozy Mobile, which is using iOS and Android devices to access data that's been backed up from a Mozy Pro backup software environment. My name is Craig Cole. I'm the Senior Technical Education Specialist, and I'll be walking you through how these things work and some of the basic functions and features of the Mozy Mobile products on iOS and Android. We will be also talking about downloading and viewing files, but we will be covering both the Android and iOS apps as they exist. First thing to keep in mind is that there is a decided shift in philosophy between the Mozy Pro backup software that you install on a Windows or Mac client and the Mozy Mobile app for iOS and Android. In the desktop arena, you are protecting yourself against data loss on those things that you work on in your environment, any text documents or whatever you feel is important to be backed up from, disaster or an unintentional deletion or a hard drive crash, etc. The Mozy Mobile app for iOS and Android, those apps are designed to give you access to that data, which is, again, a philosophy shift. Instead of protecting your data, it's accessing your data. So keep that in mind as you look at Mozy Mobile. It is designed to help you get to your data, not necessarily just to preserve data. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Getting and installing the iOS app is pretty simple. You go to the iOS or to the Apple App Store and you select, you type in Mozy in your search function, and you should be able to find the Mozy app very, very easily. You can also go for Android. You can go to the to the Google Play Store, as it's called now, and again search for Mozy. It should be quite easy to find the app. It is free. There's no charge for using the app itself. We do not charge for the app. Now, once you get it installed, and I'm not going to cover that because the installation is identical to installation of any other app, you do have to associate it with your account. So you need to know your credentials for your backup software because you're accessing the data that's already been backed up by a desktop computer or laptop. So setting that becomes fairly important. You just put that information in and you have access to it. Now, one of the things that becomes somewhat problematic when using a mobile app to access data is that mobile apps or mobile devices go with us a lot more places than a desktop computer, and as such, it's possible that without intending to, our mobile device may end up in someone else's hands. And in order to protect you from having your data accessed by a third party, even if they have your phone, we set a passcode. You can put a passcode lock on the app itself. Now, this is not the lock screen. This is just on the app. When you go into the Mozy app, it prompts you for an additional passcode before it allows you access to the data. So that's a fairly important thing that for security you might want to use. Also, you might want to access specific commonly used files, and you can go in and set a favorites in the iOS app. Down in the bottom corner, there's a little star, and it will make it more easily accessible in the future should you need to revisit a file that you've searched and used previously. Other things to consider when doing or accessing certain media types. In iOS, those Apple products, you will have the ability to stream both music and video to your device, your mobile device. Now, in a business arena, that may not be of great worth, but it is a distinction between Android and iOS. iOS, you can stream the data. With Android, you must download the data first before you can actually view or listen to any of that content. There are two screens here. After you've logged in, you have the the All Files section on the left and the My Mozy on the right. These are just some screens that allow you to access quickly data that you need. If you need to drill down to a specific item that's not in one of the categories on the right-hand side there, you can select the device that the data was backed up with and drill down to it by finding the path to the files that have been backed up and accessing them there. When you are backing up with the Mozy Pro desktop software, keep in mind that you might also need some added security. Now, Mozy secures and encrypts all of its data. All the data you hand to us comes across in an encrypted form. It's stored in that encrypted form and then restored to you if you need it. And the encryption files, sometimes people use a managed key. That is an encryption key, not the standard Mozy encryption, but their own personal key. And it's an organizational key. In other words, it's a key shared by multiple people within the organization. If you're using such a key with the Mozy Mobile app, the key does need to be accessible somewhere on a web server so that the machine or so that the Android or iOS device can access that encryption file and use it for encryption and decryption of data. If you're using a personal encryption key, you can also use that and import it directly. It does need to be somewhere that you can access it. But a personal key is a little different. There's only one person using a personal key, whereas a managed key is usually across an organization or at least a group of people. So, does Mozy Mobile back up your phone, or is it a backup utility for an iOS or Android device? And the answer is no. The Mozy Mobile app is designed to access data that you previously backed up with another machine. It does not allow for the backup of content directly from the device. There are some exceptions. It involves the use of our beta stash product, but this is not that, not designed for the backup of the whole device. There are other ways to log into Mozy Mobile. If, for instance, your organization is using Federated ID, this is a system for providing logins for Mozy using your Active Directory or other directory service. Most Mozy Pro users are not using this function. In most cases, you will not be engaged in this particular or engaged in using this particular piece. In order for things to work, however, Mozy Mobile does have to be enabled inside of your account. If you log into the Mozy Pro admin console as an administrator who has appropriate rights, you'll see that access has been turned on and it's available to you. You do need to make sure that that has been turned on, and the administrator can turn that on and can also turn off and on down at the group and user level as well. All right. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below in our forums where this video is posted, and we'll review them, and if we need to, we'll get back with you to answer any of those questions. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your participation. Goodbye.